Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. TalkNorth.com is powered by Bite Squad. Go to bitesquad.com or download their app. Get food to your door in minutes. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. TalkNorth gets you your first delivery free.
You're listening to the Strom Sports Show.
And it's good to have you with us today on the TalkNorth.com podcast network. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. I'm Steven Strom. If you want to advertise with the show, hit up Jim Suhan. He is on our website at TalkNorth.com. My producer, Brandon Morton, big shout out to him. We got a busy show today, fun show, different kind of show today, actually. I want to start to try to get people involved here. And, you know, I know it's not a radio show, so it's not the same in terms of getting calls or anything like that, but I want to get the fans into the show. I want to hear your opinions. I'm kind of sick of hearing my voice. So I have opened up the phone line here. I am recording, obviously, in New Jersey. We know that's where I broadcast out here. I sent it to Brandon Morton. He does a phenomenal job with that and makes it sound all good and stuff. So I am opening up the studio line today, and I've got a couple people that have already said they're going to call in. You talk about whatever you want in terms of Minnesota sports and whatever that is concerned with. Twins, I'm trying to stay away from. I want to focus here on the Vikings, Wolves, and Wild. I'm ready. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to debate. I want to tell you what's right, what's wrong, everything about that. We have Matthew Coller joining me in a few minutes here. We'll take calls a little later in the show, probably at the half-hour mark. But I want to begin today with a player who, to me, is I know he's getting a lot of praise right now, but I don't think he's getting the proper respect yet. And I'm talking best receiver in the game right now, and that is Adam Thielen. And it's official now. He is the best wide receiver in the game right now. 67 receptions, 822 yards, 5 touchdowns, 75% catch rate. The guy does not drop the ball. And I'm just kind of sick of me having to defend him. And for the people out everywhere, I think a lot of people outside of Minnesota are saying, you know, Antonio Brown. Okay. I think it's very hard for people to stomach. I think it's hard for fans to stomach that this is the truth now. That right now, an undrafted, can't jump insanely high, isn't the quickest, not your typical highlight receiver, is the best receiver in the game right now. And that's just the fact. Adam Thielen has taken the league by storm. It started last year where he really had a breakout year, but breakout years are great and all. What are you going to do the next year? And Adam Thielen has honestly, I mean, he's exceeding expectations. He's already tied the amount of touchdowns he's caught last year this year. He's got 5 already this year, and he caught 5 last year. He is a guy that rolls up his sleeves, goes to work, and he's not a prima donna. And people don't like that now. They want to see Odell Beckham dance. They want to see the highlight catch. You're probably not going to get that with Adam Thielen, but you know what you're going to get? Productivity. And you're going to get a guy that doesn't drop the ball. That's not going to be a distraction. That leads by example. That's Adam Thielen. And he is the best wide receiver in the game right now. The way I'm comparing this is, maybe for me, I think the older generation, I'm talking in terms of my grandma per se, maybe a little bit of my folks. They didn't want to accept the fact that technology was really taking over a few years ago. And I'm talking 5-10 years ago with the iPhone. I'm going to give you an example with that. And using the iPhone wasn't something that they were accustomed to. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to adapt. And they didn't want to embrace technology. Adam Thielen is the iPhone now. And you need to start embracing Adam Thielen as the best wide receiver in the game right now. Because what happened 5 to 10 years down the road, what's happening right now? My grandma has an iPhone. My grandma is texting. My grandma is FaceTiming me. My dad has an iPhone. My mom has an iPhone. Everyone has an iPhone now. You just adapt with the change. That's what you do. And I know it's hard for people. I know it's really, really hard for people to sit and say that Adam Thielen is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. It's hard to stomach for a lot of fans because it's always been the Antonio Browns, the Odell Beckhams, the Julio Jones. It's not. It is no longer a debate. Adam Thielen is the best wide receiver in the game right now. And you can't argue. You cannot argue. It's the facts. And if you don't like it, sorry. Adam Thielen's the best wide receiver in the game right now. And right now, if Pat Mahomes wasn't having the year that he's having, he'd probably be in the MVP discussion right now. Adam Thielen, undrafted, can't jump insanely high. Not the quickest, not your highlight receiver, not a prima donna, but he's the best receiver in the game right now, whether you like it or not. Now, as promised, the great, the one, the only, Matthew Coller of ESPN 1500. He's my Vikings reporter. Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
He joins the show right now. All right, so a bunch of stuff has gone down, and the big news that happened yesterday was the emergence of Everson Griffin. He's back in the facility. He practiced. Give me the update here. What are we expecting? He's going to play Sunday. Talk a little about Everson Griffin and his return.
Yeah, I think at this moment it's very hard to tell whether he's going to play this weekend or not. I mean, it seems like it would be a little bit rushed to bring him back just for a couple of days of practice and send him out there, but Mike Zimmer said that he has been working out, and if anybody knows this defense, it's Everson Griffin. I mean, he's been here for the entire time that Mike Zimmer has, so I mean, he's the type of guy who could be able to step right back in, but it's just hard to say, and I think it will also depend on how he manages being back at the facility. And what's difficult to talk about with all of this is his condition, because we don't really know.
Yep.
I mean, the Vikings know, and he knows, and doctors know, but from the outside perspective, it's hard to say whether he'd be ready or not. With someone like Dalvin Cook, who has a hamstring injury, it's very easy to say, maybe they should sit him out this week because hamstrings can linger. But with this, it seems to me like it's going to be a continuing battle for Everson Griffin's life, even beyond football, that he's going to have to deal with. But at the same time, the Vikings gave him a proper amount of time, it seems, to be away from the facility, be away from the team, and be able to come back when he's in a good place.
All right, so you just talked and you just kind of hit on it, Dalvin Cook. What the heck's going on with him? It's a lingering hamstring injury. Now he's likely to be out until week 11 after the Vikings bye week. That's the reports. What's going on with Dalvin Cook right now?
Well, I think that they made a mistake in trying to put him on the pitch count when they did that in Los Angeles, of trying to throw him into a game where the hamstring wasn't ready, and then it appears at least that it did not heal after that, or was possibly even re-aggravated and has put him on the shelf. And it seems like every time he's tried to go out there and practice, that the next day he's all of a sudden not practicing again. That's happened a couple weeks in a row. And maybe in this case we can question how they handled this, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to know if in practice he tweaked something or re-aggravated something. But I think that the pitch count idea was not a very good one in trying to do that in Los Angeles. So now, you have to sit here and wait. But this is why they brought back Latavius Murray. And he's averaging 4.8 yards per carry. And we've seen some flashes from Mike Boone, who had a 9-yard run, and then Rock Thomas, who had a 23-yard run. And I think that at this point, it's time to use both of those guys in the passing game, because the screen game to the running backs has been non-existent here since Dalvin Cook went down. And it's not like Murray can't do it, but I think that the other two guys are probably a little bit better at it. So I think that needs to come back, and they need to figure out ways to game plan around the fact that they don't have Dalvin. And then we'll see what happens when he comes back after the bye, assuming that report turns out to be correct.
Now, I don't want Viking fans to jump on me here, but let's be honest. I mean, this is a guy that's played, 4 or 5 career games with the Vikings? I mean, I know he is important to the offense, but he's not a necessity right now. Latavius Murray has stepped up last year. He stepped up the last 2 weeks. You have guys like Mike Boone, Rock Thomas. I mean, necessarily, it's a good addition, obviously, when he comes back. But right now, I don't see the rush right now to rush him back. So we'll see what happens there. I want to talk a little about the Jets-Vikings last week. And in a game where I really thought the Vikings played okay. I didn't think they played great. I didn't think they played bad. But they win by 20. Give me some things that stuck out for you on Sunday.
I think that the way you phrased that is correct, that it was, for a 20-point win, maybe one of the most underwhelming 20-point wins that I've ever seen.
Yep.
it felt much more like the Jets giving them the game than them taking it. And especially on the offensive side, they hit on some big plays, but it's been shown through people who have studied this sort of thing that hitting on big plays is great, but it's hard to count on. So if you go into a game and you say we have to score all of our touchdowns from beyond 30 yards, and it's very unlikely to happen. I mean, it happened against the Jets, but it's not going to happen week in and week out where you're going to throw a 34-yard touchdown or have a 38-yard touchdown run by Latavius Murray, especially when you're going up against some better teams than the New York Jets. And that's where getting into the red zone and scoring, they were 1 for 3 on touchdowns in the red zone. They were 2 for 15 on third down, and 12 of those third downs were of 7 yards or more. And they really did not go to the run game very often on second down, which is something Mike Zimmer brought up. And then they had some issues with just finishing drives when they did get into the red zones. I think you walk away from that game going, if you're the Vikings, you're very happy that you won, but you know that you're not going to be able to perform the same way against the New Orleans Saints because they won't turn the ball over 4 times. They won't drop punts, or they won't throw interceptions the same way that Sam Darnold did or struggle so much against the Vikings defense on third down. That Drew Brees will make you pay if you don't finish drives or if you have 3 and outs where it's 3rd and 12 or something like that. There's a lot to be improved on this week from where they, even just going back to the Arizona game where the offense really wasn't ticking. And that's where I would say you could use Dalvin Cook here. If they're not getting him back, they're not getting him back. But in the screen game or in handoffs where he has to do something really special to make a big play, that's where it takes a lot of the pressure off of Kirk Cousins, and they don't have that at this moment.
100% agree. Let's shift to a couple positives here. I don't know, have you guys talked about Adam Thielen enough? But we'll bring it up again. Obviously, statistically, the way he's playing so far, he's just been magnificent. And I love having you on because there's no bias. You're not from Minnesota, so that's why I like getting your opinion. Where do you rank him in terms of wide receivers right now?
I think it's really hard with him individually to talk about him without talking about Stephon Diggs. And so when we talk about trying to rank him, I think that there are other receivers who are the only guy on their team. DeAndre Hopkins is a good example of this. Julio Jones now has Calvin Ridley, but for a lot of his career, it's just been like Julio Jones. Antonio Brown has Juju Smith-Schuster, but it's mostly been Antonio Brown. To have it as part of a tandem where they rely so much on each other, I think that things went Stephon Diggs' way 2 years ago because he was playing a lot of slot with the statistics, and last year they were a little closer to even, but Thielen had more catches, and this year Thielen is running away with that. But I think it has a lot to do with how they play off of each other and how when you play the Arizona Cardinals and Patrick Peterson, they put Peterson on Stephon Diggs, right? Mm-hmm. And so then you see, no one's going to be able to stop Adam Thielen at that point. So I think you have 2 of the 10 best. I don't think that Thielen quite is on the level of an A.J. Green where you could or DeAndre Hopkins, where he could be the only guy on the team and he would just put up these types of numbers. But at the same time, you're talking about a guy who catches everything that's anywhere in his vicinity and is a tactician and is a great competitor. So if you were drafting wide receivers, he's definitely up there. But with him, it makes it extra interesting and extra challenging for opponents that you have 2 of these guys who are extremely difficult to stop.
Good point. Let's talk a little bit about guys like Stephen Weatherly, J-Ron Kearse, even Brandon Zylstra, to a certain extent, made a big catch on Sunday. Holton Hill made an impact on Sunday. How important is it to have your so-called second and third string guys have an impact on a win?
Well, I think that this is something that every team is trying to do all the time, but doesn't always achieve, which is find guys who were not top draft picks or anything like that and be able to put them into roles and have them either at least hold down the fort or succeed. And, last year, I think if this same thing had happened to the Vikings with all these injuries, that it would have derailed them quite a bit because either there wasn't the players there or they weren't developed enough. And with Stephen Weatherly, that's the thing, is Weatherly has really taken another step from even in preseason. You could see it. You could see how much he was dominating and getting after the quarterback, even in limited snaps, but also in training camp on a daily basis. And that's something that we had not seen from him, the year before even. So him taking big steps and making progress all the time, Jaron Kearse has really found his role, and that's another thing too in the NFL is